Hey, hello. Welcome to episode number 14 of the People We Love podcast. I am Adam Choit, and you are you. And we're both living on a spinning rock that's flying around space. Pretty wild stuff, actually. But anyway, today is a special one. A very special episode, that is. Because what you're about to hear is an amazing conversation with a man named Cesar Zuniga. Cesar, a former gang member who was wrongfully convicted of murder, spent 25 years in prison. During this interview, he tells me all about how he came to the realization that even though he was innocent of what he was accused of, prison was exactly where he needed to be at that time in his life. I won't get too much into it, but will say that without self-help therapy and without his family, it's doubtful Cesar would be the man he is today, a man who actually goes back to the prisons to visit others to help them turn their lives around. I should also say that the original plan was for Cesar to come on and tell his story with more focus on his relationship with his sister, but the episode is really about Cesar's life and his immediate family. Just letting you know that because I think I do say something on here like, we're here to talk about your sister, or something like that. But anyway, it's not important. But without further ado, here's Cesar Zuniga. So, Cesar Zuniga, how are you doing today? Good to see you.
I'm doing great, man. Thank you.
Oh, thanks for having me in your studio here. Nice setup we got going. We improvised a little setup here. It's
Absolutely.
Cool, though.
Absolutely.
How's your day been so far?
It's been good. I came home from work at 4 o'clock. And actually, for whatever reason, I didn't catch any traffic today. I lucked out and I got home. I leave at work at 4 o'clock, so I got home like around 4:25, which is insane, with the LA traffic.
Lucky day for you, and you got the daylight out later. You like that? You like
Absolutely.
that? Everyone likes that. I haven't met a single person that doesn't like more daylight, for sure. So we're here to talk about who?
My sister Alma.
Your sister Alma, and she's meant a lot to you.
Absolutely.
And how old are you?
So I will be 46 in a couple of days.
Okay. Well, happy birthday.
On the 26th, I'll be 46. And she's already going to be, she'll be, in November 1st, she'll be 47.
Gotcha. So you guys are pretty close in age and pretty close as siblings as well.
Absolutely.
So we're going to get into your life story, and we'll jump around, I'm sure, wherever, the journey takes us, and we'll hear about her influence, as a kid and growing up, and to where your relationship is with her today. So let's get into it. So you're born and raised in LA, but you didn't spend all your time here. So yeah, I'll give you the floor, and you could kind of tell your story from childhood, whatever you want to get into.
Sure. So like I said, my sister and I were both born in Los Angeles, and I believe I was like around 6 months to a year when her and I was sent to Mexico to live with my grandmother, because it was difficult for my parents to make ends meet while having us here because they had us very young. So, on occasion, whenever it was okay for them financially, they would send for us. And we would come and we would visit here for a couple of weeks, and then they would send us back to Mexico.
So you just come to visit, and this went on for how long from like when you guys...
Till I was 7 years old.
Yeah, so on and off, just visiting LA from...
Yes, sir.
Mexico for 7 years. And where in Mexico were you?
In this little town called Tecolotlan, Jalisco. And it's a very small town. Back in those days when I used to go, it was only 2 roads.
Yeah.
They had the new road and they had the old road. So it's a very small town. My grandmother was very known in that town. She had a meat dispensary. Sort of like a meat market, but it was just meat in the morning. So she was well known, I have a lot of family there.
Yeah, what do you remember, like, from age 0 to 7 about spending time in Los Angeles? Obviously, most in Mexico and in a small town, but obviously LA is a big city, so what do you remember about, like, feeling like being in small town Mexico and being in big city Los Angeles?
I remember that I didn't want to leave.
You wanted to stay in?
I wanted to stay here. I wanted
Angeles.
to stay with my parents. I remember that. I didn't really want to go back. It's not that I didn't like it. Not that I didn't love living with my grandmother. It wasn't the case. It was just like any other kid that wants to live with their parents.
Yeah. Did you feel like you understood the situation, or you as a kid you didn't really understand what was going on around you entirely?
No, I didn't understand what was going on. I remember when they used to, I remember when they used to like hand us off to family
Yeah.
that was traveling. Like they'll be on the plane. Like if, let's say, a family friend was going to the same town that we were going to, they would hand my sister over and I over to him,
Yeah.
and make sure that we landed okay. Where we were gonna go.
With your
My grandmother,
grandparents.
my grandmother would pick us up, and everything was fine. I was very used to being in planes at a very young age,
Traveling,
which was pretty cool. But like I said, I didn't understand it until I got to like at 2 or 3 years old. I didn't understand why. Like I knew I didn't want to go over there, but I had to.
Yeah.
So I dealt with it.
Yeah. So you said from until you were 7, you were going back and forth. Then when at 7 years old,
So at 7, finally, my parents were financially stable, and they sent for us. We came to live right here in Watts, California, and so they quickly enrolled us into school. And it was at that time it was a predominantly all black school, so it was pretty difficult for me to make friends.
Yeah,
because I didn't speak the language.
Sure. So you didn't speak you never really spoke much English growing up.
No,
because you were in Mexico 99% of the time.
Exactly. And
so when you came to live full time in the States at 7, you're the only Hispanic dude, and you don't speak any English in a school that's 99. Well, I don't know what the percentage was, but it was mostly.
I was at about 90%.
Yeah,
85% black.
Sure. And this what year was this?
And this was, let's say, I was 7. I was born in 7, maybe like 1980.
What school is it?
It's down the street. It's called Graham Elementary.
Gotcha.
It's a pretty cool little elementary school that I went to.
Still around.
Now it's hooked up. Pretty cool.
Nice.
I pass by there sometimes, and I reminisce about my kickball days. So that's pretty cool.
So tell me about what it was like, not being able to speak, English and trying to adjust to a new school and new country, basically.
I mean, I was young. It was difficult. I remember plainly. So my sister and I, even though she was a lot older, we started a school together in Mexico. So we were already going to school in Mexico.
You started a school?
Yes. No, we started going to school.
Oh, you started going to school in Mexico,
in Mexico. So, we did kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade. So when we were in third grade, they finally sent for us, and we came back over here. So when we were enrolled over here in the States, in elementary, they put me in third grade, and they put her in the fourth grade.
Yeah.
And that was like torture for me.
Because you used to be in the same classes.
Everything was the same.
Even though she was 18 months older, but in Mexico, they put you in the same classes.
Yeah.
And even in like a lot of U.S. schools, I guess for kids, when someone is a grade or two, like there's such a big difference between a 12-year-old and a 10-year-old, between a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old. They're just as kids grow so fast.
Yeah.
But so they separated you guys. And
so
tough.
While I was in Mexico, she was always my rock. She was always the person that took care of me. She was always the one that looked out for me. And so now coming over here and not knowing anybody or knowing anything about being in the States, when they separated us and they put me in the third grade and her in the fourth grade, I threw the biggest tantrum in my life. Like I didn't want to be separated from her. I just didn't.
Yeah, wow.
I didn't. I felt like I just felt lost.
Were you at least in the same school?
We were in the same school. She was just in the next class.
But you were that attached.
But I was so attached to my sister that I was crying, and nothing that would say to me would make a difference.
Was this like the first day when you found this out, or is this how long did this like tantrum go on for? Is it just like that?
It was the first day.
Yeah, when you first found out.
Yeah, it was the first day. After that, I remember learning colors, just how to say like what an orange was, what an orange color was, and that sort of threw me off of what I was feeling, right? Like
you got distracted by learning.
Yes, I got distracted by learning, and it took away, like now I was no longer, scared or crying. And now we're going to school constantly. She's in the fourth grade and I'm in the third grade, and we're in the same school, right? But she did her own thing. I did mine.
Yeah, you started to have your own lives a little bit.
Yeah. So then, But yeah, that very first day, like I feel like sometimes it was like just yesterday that I went through that.
Sure.
And it was pretty rough, man. It was pretty rough.
Those traumas stay with you.
Yeah, they do.
The feelings that you had on those days, I think, stay with you. That's what stays with
absolutely.
you. The memories, I guess. Yeah. So you were in school, and how was elementary school from there? Once your sister and you started having your own lives, and did you adjust to the school, or did you start to make friends?
Yeah, little by little, I started adjusting to the school. Like I said, I didn't know how to make friends. I didn't know how to be social, but I quickly learned. Even though I didn't speak the language, I quickly learned how to just be there in the moment, right?
Sure.
And so as I made the little set of friends that I made while I was in elementary, I really thought I was going to grow old with these guys. I really thought.
Yeah, you always think that your friends when you're 8 years old are going to be your friends for life.
Forever.
And you still think that, when you make friends later in life. But
yeah,
people come and go. But yeah, so you were saying.
I was in third grade. So 3 years later, when I went to the sixth grade, my sister already had graduated from elementary. So she had already moved on to a junior high school. And I was next to graduate from elementary.
Yeah.
And like I said, we were scheduled to go to a certain junior high school that where you lived is where you go to school.
Sure.
But because, like I said, my sister had graduated a year earlier, she ended up going to a different school in a different city. And I didn't think nothing of it. I was like, okay, whatever.
Because she was going to be gone anyway. So you're going to have that year without her being your school. But you knew that for whatever reason the districts were being changed or something, where she was going to be going to a different junior high school.
Yeah. So I'm thinking
that's already further away.
Yeah. For me, I'm still thinking I'm going to the junior high that we're scheduled to go from our district, and with all my friends. But it wasn't the case. They sent me to the same junior high that my sister was going to, and I wasn't happy about it.
So now you were upset that you were separated from your friends.
Yes. So now
you can't win.
Absolutely. So now I'm like I said, I'm 12, I believe, and I don't want to be in school. And it wasn't nothing against my sister. It was that my friends are over here.
Yeah.
Now I have to start all over.
Like, oh my goodness. Yeah.
So I started believing that my opinion at home didn't matter. Right, like what I wanted didn't matter, and
who was ultimately responsible? Do you remember like this whole fiasco with all these schools jumping around? Was it just like the city or the school board, or
no?
Was it your parents? Like who was making these decisions about where?
No, it was my parents. It was my mother, and back then I seen that as a punishment. Right.
Yeah.
I seen it as a punishment.
They would thought this was a better school, though.
Yeah, but in all reality, she was just looking out for me. She was just, this is what's best for you. Like,
sure.
This school is best for you. It's in a better city. It doesn't look as violent as where you're gonna be ending up at. Yeah, So, but I didn't see it that way. I seen it as like, oh man, like my opinion. Like I don't want to go here, but. Well,
no one's they're not taking you seriously.
Yeah, nobody cares what you think.
Yeah,
this is where you're going to go to school, and
it's tough to be a kid.
Absolutely,
your opinion doesn't count as much.
It does not. But as an adult now, you realize that they're not doing that as a punishment.
Right.
They're doing it because they care. They're doing it because this is what's best for you. But as a kid, you don't know. You don't know any better.
Yeah. So then, what happened when you were in this new school?
I went to junior high school.
12, so you're 12, about 12, and then junior high.
I knew I had to start all over, but I wasn't happy, so I knew how to become social, and the only way that I knew how to become social was to get involved in sports, and they had a lot of after school activities jumping off. So I said, well, you know what? I'm going to ask my father, because at this time, my parents owned a business already. So they owned a meat market. And I told my father, I said, hey, how about if I want to be able to join some sport teams after school? Is that cool? And he's like, no. He goes like, no, your job is to just go to work and go to school and go to work. That's your whole job. Like, there's nothing else you can do. This is what your job in life is.
Really?
You go to school and you come to work.
Not just
period.
Not just while you're in a kid or in middle school or junior high or whatever, your whole life he
Absolutely.
he expected you to go into the family business.
That's how he's seen it. He's seen it as.
But why even go to school at all then?
Exactly.
I mean,
so he, like I said, when he banned me, like when he didn't want me to do this, now I'm thinking, I was already suffering from some abandonment issues because I was young and I was shipped out to Mexico.
Yeah.
Right.
Plus being jerked around from all the schools.
And then my opinion at home, what I want doesn't matter.
No.
So now I can't even do what I want, and now you want me to go work for you. Now you want me to work for you for free. So that's when,
for free?
Like literally all. Well, they weren't going to pay me.
Yeah.
They weren't going to pay me a check. They just, they needed someone there to work, and who else but the son.
What did your mother think of you wanting to play sports? Do you remember?
I don't even think I've ever brought it up to her. I just heard my dad's response, and
that was enough for you to react.
She would never go against what he said. It was said. But again, I believe that she also felt that this was what's best for me to, figure. So this is what I, like as an adult, what I figured out. Like what they wanted for me was a better life. Like they never wanted anything bad to happen to me, right?
Yeah.
But I'm a kid, and I'm going through all these emotions that I don't know how to deal with. So they're focused on the business. They're focused on making sure that I'm fed. They're focused on making sure that I have a roof over my head. They're focused that I have a good education. They're focused on everything.
And they see sports as a way, almost not as a positive, but as a way that could potentially take away from,
Absolutely. So, of course, I didn't. You're a kid, you don't understand that. But today I realized that if I would have been more focused on what they were offering me, because what I should have been focused is, this is the family business. So when my parents retire, this is either going to belong to my sister or myself. So I should be focused.
Did she work in the store too?
Yeah. Yeah, because it was a very successful business that my parents had. It wasn't like a mom and pop store. It was like a very, very successful business.
It's awesome. So, how did she feel about working in the store? Did she
was okay with it. She was okay with it. But again, like her and I, after a while, like you sort of got tired of it.
Right.
You got tired of it. You didn't, like for me, like I remember she had a job and then she went to, she completed school, high school, and I believe she went to college, a small community college. But she was just trying to separate herself from, like, I want to do my own thing.
Right.
And that's what I wanted to do. I had a conversation with my father, I want to say like 1989, when I told him, like, I don't want to come here anymore. Like, I don't want to do this no more.
And how old were you at that point?
I was 17 years old.
You were 17. Yeah. So it's back to when you were
I said take it back, I was like 16 years
16.
Old.
So like when you were 12 and before you were 16 or whatever, and they wouldn't let you play sports and you had to continue working in the store. What happened from there when you kind of were forced to?
Well, this is where the emotions that I didn't know how to deal with, I took it to the street.
Sure.
Right? Because the people in the street understood the pain that I was going, understood the emotions that I was going through. They understood me. They were there for me. I believe at that time they became the family that I was turning to for whatever I needed. Whatever it was that I was needing at that time, specific time in my life, that I wasn't getting from my parents. And it wasn't because they weren't giving it to me. It was just the focus was on something else. I never got the pat on the back or the, hey, how's school? Or what do you want to do when you graduate school? Or how does your future look? And how are your grades? And I never really received that.
Were they busy they were really busy and focused on running the business?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not just saying that's the only thing, but yeah, I mean, it's...
Yeah, I mean, they were focused on our well-being, but it was mostly like making sure that this business grows.
Yeah.
Because this business was going to be for us. It was going to be for us. Me not understanding that, I took it for granted.
Sure.
So I chose the streets, and I chose to be part of a gang, and I began to bring all this destruction and this violence to my home, to my parents that had no clue of what I was involved in. Because I was sort of living like a double life.
And yeah, and in the gang life, we could talk about whatever you want to get into with that. But like, what kind? I mean, obviously, you seem to get emotional support from them and pats on the back and things like that. But was it more just about just taking care of each other at all costs, kind of thing, and protecting your turf, and just through all costs, just getting whatever you guys want and need to survive? Is that kind of what the life was like?
I was under a warped belief system, which is what we call it today in the self-help world.
Sure.
I was under a warped belief system that I was being part of something that was beneficial to my neighborhood. I was fighting for a street that didn't belong to me. I was fighting for a city that didn't belong to me, but I didn't care. And if it took me losing my life over it, I really was okay with it, because even if I die for this neighborhood, I'm dying for a cause. I'm dying for something.
Yeah.
When if I would die just being Cesar, nobody would care. Nobody would even bother asking what happened, because nobody cares, because my mentality already was nobody cares about it.
So like it's like a part of the whole gang mentality is if something happens to one of the members, you have that feeling knowing that all those people will rush to your defense or revenge. Absolutely. Or whatever the case may be.
So an example is this. I ended up getting arrested for the crime that I was charged with. And, when you're in the gang lifestyle, you're promised this camaraderie, this love, this we're there for you, whatever you need. All this stuff is promised. But once you're behind bars, then all that stuff goes out the window. The way I see it is out of sight, out of mind. And you keep believing that these people are still there for you, that they're still your homeboys, that they haven't gone anywhere, right? But it's not true.
And that's the evidence of that is that they don't visit you, they don't write to you, they don't help you financially in any way possible.
Exactly.
They're just not there for you in any possible way.
The only time that they're there for you is when they get arrested, and then you see them in the yard, and then they're like, "Hey, what's going on, bro? How you been?" And then you're already feeling some type of way if you see them, because like, what do you mean? I've been
people
here
are so fake in LA, even in prison. There's a lot of fake people.
I've been here for 20 years. Where you been at? Like, what happened to the love and the camaraderie and you looking out, and what happened to all that, right? So yeah, I was, like I said, I was under this false belief, this warped belief system that this was my calling, like that this was what I was born to do, a gang member, criminal.
Did you realize it was a warped belief system when you realized that they weren't there for you? Was that kind of when you realized?
So here's the thing. So when I was in prison, I was the same.
This was what year when you first?
I got arrested in 1991.
And you've only been in prison for this one time
that was my first offense.
First offense, and that's the only thing that you've ever been in.
That's the only thing I've been arrested for.
Man,
I mean, I had a prior arrest for vandalism, but it was my sister again went to my she went to save me. She went to the police station.
That was a minor thing that you were able to.
Yeah, it was very minor. I paid a fine and that was it. But this case right here, when I got arrested in 1991, I was still the same person in prison my first 15 years that I was in the street.
Really? Like 15 in the first 15 years?
Like nothing had changed.
To go back to one thing I wanted you to comment on, because you said that you had the attitude and the thought that the gang would improve the neighborhood, would improve the streets, that you guys were doing a good service to the...
Yeah.
And is that...
That's not true.
But is that the mentality and the thought process that everyone seems to have?
Because if me and my homeboys are hanging out in this block right here,
you're protecting
according to us, we're protecting this block. So if you live here, we're protecting you.
Yeah,
you should be thanking us.
Yes, even if the people who live there are not official members of the gang. Yeah.
Right. So now, because we're hanging out in this block and this is our neighborhood, and then somebody comes shooting up us, but they miss us and then they hate you.
Yeah.
Right? So this is where we failed to realize that we weren't really being the protectors of the neighborhood. We were putting the whole society in danger. We were putting our whole community in danger because of the lifestyle that I lived or that we were living. We wouldn't even, like, the neighbors that had kids wouldn't allow their kids to come out and play in their front yards because There's gang members out
Yeah.
there. Somebody's gonna pass by and shoot at
You
you.
guys were doing other things besides neighborhood watch, perhaps.
Exactly.
It wasn't just that.
But that was our justification for hanging out. That was our justification for doing what we did. Like making sure we vandalized the walls and letting people know like this was our neighborhood. You can't come in here. Like you're not wanted. If you're not from this side of town, you're not
How come
wanted.
I can't ever read anything that's any tagging, any sort of that?
Well,
Do people actually know what that is?
This is the crazy
it's
part.
gangs communicating with each other
No, this
in
is a
some
crazy
kind of
part.
language that I don't understand.
One thing, me as a former gang member now, and when I was a gang member, something I took very to heart was whenever I hit up on the wall, I made sure that my writing was really good, right? I never hit up in the wall that was very sloppy.
Hey, you take pride in your
I
craft.
took pride in it. So this is why these gangs nowadays are so watered down because these guys don't even take pride in what they do. I mean, to me, like I see that today and I feel like, man, that was me. Like, this is so retarded. It's so stupid. Like, all they're doing is just bringing the property value down in the community. That's all they're really doing.
I'm not even saying make art. I'm just saying write something that people can understand, especially, your enemies. At least make your enemies understand.
Exactly. But,
oh my goodness.
But like nowadays, like I said, this generation of gangs that are out here today it just doesn't make any sense.
These kids, they don't know it.
It doesn't make any sense. And then, so this is the thing. This is what still boggles me sometimes is that knowing that there's a lot of people in prison today doing life for gang-related crimes, that they're giving you like decades, years in prison for being a gang member or for doing stuff for your gang, for the benefit of the gang. And you're getting like 50 to 100 years and you're still doing it. Like when I was growing up, I was a gang member, but in reality, call me naive, but I didn't know that I knew that eventually I would come to prison, but it never dawned on me that I would be doing life in prison. It never dawned on me that I had to spend 25 years in prison because in those days, people that were going to prison were just going to prison for a few years and then coming back out. So I thought that was for everybody.
Yeah.
Right? I thought everybody was doing that. Like I didn't have any home.
You kind of expected to have some prison time because you knew that you were up to not the best behavior.
Yeah. So
you didn't think it was going to be so.
Yeah, I didn't have any homeboys that were doing life that could say, "Oh man, my homeboy such and such is doing life. I don't want to get life like he is, so I'm gonna try to back up or not do as much." Or was it? We were doing what we were doing and didn't even think about the we're so impulsive that we didn't even think about the consequences. I not one time did think I was ever going to get life.
Yeah, we'll get back to the whole first 15 years and not having any sort of epiphany until 15 years in. But that must have been when you got sentenced. What was that to bring you back to a great time? But I have to ask like what that was like to have received that sentence. What that must feel like. I can't even imagine.
Well, first of all, this is what's crazy. So I was arrested in May of 1991 for a crime that my neighborhood had committed. So I wasn't even there. I wasn't in the car. I was nowhere near when the crime happened. So I was completely innocent of this crime. But I got arrested because I lived in my neighborhood and people were saying that it was me that was the driver of the vehicle that was used in the drive-by shooting, but it wasn't. Yeah. It wasn't me. So
and the cops, of course, and the prosecutors, they all want to get somebody.
Yeah. So during the time I was litigating my case in the courts, I used to pray every night, and I used to tell God, you see everything that happens. You've seen that it wasn't me that committed this crime. I wasn't the driver of this vehicle. Let these courts figure out that they have the wrong man in prison, so I can go home to my family. Because and I know and everybody else knows that it wasn't me that was driving the vehicle. So every day I'm doing this and I'm believing in God and I'm believing in God and I'm believing in God. And then I go to trial and I lose. And then God just went out the window.
I was going to predict that.
He was just like, dude, and in my mind,
and you are wearing a cross right now, I will say that.
Yeah.
So we might be coming back around. The story is to be continued.
Absolutely.
But you were saying.
So, in my mind, I feel like God had turned his back on me.
Yeah.
I felt like, he didn't care about me. He didn't love me either, and he just turned his back on me. So I said, screw it.
It's hard not to feel that way.
F God, F everybody. I'm the victim here. I'm the one that's going to prison for something he didn't do. So I played the victim role for 15 years because every time I see myself in the mirror, I didn't see nothing wrong with me. I really didn't. And like I said, the first 15 years of my incarceration, I was the same person because, again, what I seen in the mirror, I didn't do this crime. So there's nothing for me to change.
Did you feel any remorse from whatever, things you got involved with?
No.
That were not the...
Absolutely not. Because, again, there was nothing wrong with me. Like, what I seen in the mirror, there was nothing wrong with me. And it wasn't until 2005 when I was introduced to self-help therapy, right? And I remember one of the tasks was for me to write out my life story. First of all, a friend of mine invited me to the group. I didn't want to do it. Those self-help groups weren't for me.
I was going to ask how they got you in the first place, because you probably were resistant.
They weren't for me. Again, that stuff is for people that committed their crimes. The people that committed crimes, that's who needs these groups.
I didn't do it. So I don't really need the help. I'm fine.
So I remember the task being that to write out your life story. You write out your life story and see what kind of life you were living, right? And I said, okay. So I started writing out my life story. Yes, I was born in Mexico, whoop, this and that. And then I got to the part where my house began getting shot up by my so-called rival, my rival gang, with my family in it. So now, when this was happening, when I was a kid, I was 16, 17 years old, and this is happening, my parents are confronting me. And they're telling me, what are you involved in? Because obviously they're trying to kill you. They're not throwing rocks at the house. These are live rounds.
Yeah.
So what are you involved in? And I would play the victim. I would get defensive. Yeah. And I would say, look, Mom, Dad, this is the city that we live in. This is a norm right here where we live in. I said, so I don't know. And I would storm out. That was my answers to their questions, right?
Sure.
And then, so now, again, I'm a kid. I'm naive. I'm whatever.
And you're writing about this.
Yes. So now I'm an adult. Now I'm in my 30s. Now I'm writing this stuff out, and I'm like, wait a minute. What? Why didn't I say something? How come I didn't say, Mom, Dad, I'm involved in this gang? Where I war with another gang. They know where I live. So they're going to go do what they're going to do to get to me. So let's just move, or can we just go somewhere for a minute till it calms down? No, I didn't say nothing. So in my mind, I'm like, wait a minute. So I was stuck right there. I was stuck because I was like, how come I didn't say nothing? I didn't understand that. And I said, well, you know what? Maybe there is something wrong with me. Maybe there is something that I have to figure out. How come I didn't say nothing? As time went by and I continued doing more of the work, a lot more self-help therapy, a lot more questions, a lot of the why questions. And after years and years of doing this stuff, I came to the realization that I was so angry as a kid that I was allowing this stuff to happen in my home, and I didn't care. And the reason I didn't care was because I felt like nobody cared about me. So why should I care about you? And I seen it as like, well, no harm, no foul. If they shoot up the house, oh, well, nobody got hurt, so what are you crying for? That's the way I was seeing stuff as a kid. And when I came up with that conclusion that I was so angry, I just literally broke down, and I was like, wow, like I figured it out. Like,
it's awesome. That's amazing. That's all amazing.
That's when I realized that I was where I was supposed to be, in prison. Because even though I didn't commit the crime that I was in here for, I brought danger to my family. I brought stuff that they don't have no clue. My parents were both hardworking people.
That's amazing.
All they were trying to do was provide for me and my sister, and I bring this mess to my home, bro.
Yeah, that's amazing that you could, I guess, admit that to yourself or come to that conclusion. Because I feel like most people, could improve themselves, and change their situation, or not most people. People can, but to feel like you still deserve that, and that's where you felt like you should be, despite not committing the crime that put you there. It's just amazing that you could come to that.
Before I was introduced to this self-help therapy, I played the victim role. I felt like it's everybody else's fault but mine, right? And then when I was finally involved with this and I did the work in myself and I asked those why questions, and I figured out that I did belong in prison because I wasn't a good person. Like who does that? Like seriously, who allows that stuff to happen in their home? I could understand if my parents were also gang members, so they already knew that the lifestyle, this is what the lifestyle brought, but they didn't. They didn't know nothing about this life. It was just me.
But honestly, just you hearing the story from your life story from birth to up until like your teens, you can follow why and how this all ended up happening and.
Well, this is the reason that
I'm not saying it's right or those are the choices you should have made. Of course, maybe everyone wants to make different choices, but I could follow the why you made those choices.
And this is because I was able to figure this out, right? Because I had to go in front of a parole board and explain to them why I became who I became. And this was the only way for me doing the work and understanding that there was stuff wrong with me. And this is what led me into this. Like, this is what was going on in my life as a youth that led me into this lifestyle that made me think that nobody cared about me, that this lifestyle was my calling, that this is what I was born to do, to be a gang member, and a criminal, because I wasn't really good at anything else. I wasn't good at school. I definitely wasn't good at sports. But I was good at this.
It seems like you really were able to step outside yourself and look at yourself with like almost like fresh eyes, almost like an out of body kind of sort of.
You have to do that. You have to
try to be objective about yourself and not. Everyone has to bullshit themselves a little bit to get through life, but I think.
So let me give you an example. If I come home from prison. Right? If I come home from prison and nothing has changed, I'm still the same person, right? Those wounds, those emotions, those feelings that I went through as a kid, they're still there.
Sure.
The only way for me to heal from that is for me to talk about them and for me to bring them out on the open and say, man, this is what happened to me. But today, I'm past that. Today, I figured out that everything that I was believing in, that I thought was right, was wrong, right? And every time
that could be a hard thing to come to grips with, obviously.
Yeah, for a lot of people. But like I said, if you've done the work and if your freedom is important to you, then of course that's what you need to do in order for you to be able to make it out here back out into society and become a productive member of the community.
Sure,
you have to heal from whatever traumas you went through.
You can't be a productive, if you're not.
No,
if you're not, good with yourself, you can't be a good, productive person in society, I guess.
Yeah.
What did your sister think when you were convicted and you were in prison especially for like the first 15 years when you were resistant to self-improvement? How did she react to all this, and what was your relationship like with her?
Well, it's funny because when I was arrested, no
worries.
When I was arrested, I wasn't speaking to my father. I wasn't speaking to my sister. And I was barely talking to my mom, right? I had brought so much destruction to the family that, I wasn't talking to anybody. It was all about me and my neighborhood and me being from my neighborhood and representing so.
Did they try to reach out to you
they didn't understand. They didn't know. Like I was telling you earlier, like I was living a double life.
Right.
So they didn't know until the house began getting shot up and I got arrested for the vandalism. So when all this came about, this is when the cat was let out of the bag.
Sure.
So now it's like I'm full blown, like I'm full-fledged gang member, criminal, doing whatever I got to do for my neighborhood. And
after you get arrested for vandalism,
yes,
it's kind of out in the open.
Yeah, the cat was let out of the bag after that, and they realized like, well, so because they just weren't going to stop their life and okay, let's focus on Cesar now. What happened? What's going on here? And shut the business down. And
they couldn't.
No, they could. They went right back to. So I continued being who I was because obviously that was more important at the time, and so I get arrested for the murder. The house was searched. They had a search warrant for the house. They tossed up the house looking for the murder weapon, which they never found. The murder happened March 3rd, 1991. And I got arrested in May 1991, 2 months later. They didn't have any kind of evidence. They didn't have, all they had was this young man saying that he seen me driving the car. And this same young man in 2005 recanted his testimony.
Oh, man.
And said that it wasn't me that I was driving that car. It was never me, that the cops told him to say it was me. So.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, so
it's amazing that you're not angrier. Well, or I don't know, you know.
Believe me,
I'm sure you were.
That's one of the biggest questions that whenever I get a chance, an opportunity to share my story with people, they always ask me the same question, like, dude, how come you're not mad at the world? How come you're not just angry at everybody? You know, and my simple response is, what am I going to get out of that? Like, what am I getting out of being angry? Like,
yeah.
At the end of the day, look at the life that I was living. Look what happened. And today, I could honestly tell you that a lot of people won't admit to this, but prison was a lifesaver for me. It did save my life. And this, again, it goes around the whole circle in God. At one point, I believed that he turned his back on me. When in reality, what he did is he removed me from my environment and he put me in a place where he wanted me to figure this out. Like, dude, your life is literally out of control, because that was me. I don't know if you're familiar with the 12 steps, the AA steps.
A little bit, yeah.
Like the first step is admitting that your life was out of control, and that was me.
Sure.
Like my life was literally out of control. My life was a disaster. Just by the stuff that I was bringing to my home, the stuff that I was doing, what I was involved in, what I believed in. It was just a disaster.
Oh, man.
You know? So now, like I said...
so when you were in prison, you know, for the first few years, obviously when you first got in there, you lost touch or weren't in touch with your parents or your sister.
Mm-hmm.
Did you eventually get in touch with them? Because you said none of the gang members reached out to you.
No.
Who were you in touch with on the outside?
When I was in the police station for this crime, because I spent like 5 days in the police station. So when I was in the police station, I was calling home. Now everyone that I wasn't talking to, that I was mad at, now they're all there. And it wasn't them, it was me, because it wasn't them. I was the one that was mad. I was the one that wasn't talking to them. I wasn't the one that was being open with them. It was me.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, you know, and they're worried about me. And they're like, what happened? What's going on? And did you do this? And I'm like, no, I didn't do this. Like, I don't know. Like, they got the wrong dude. Like, it wasn't me. Like, I didn't do this. So, you know, they believed me. They were in my corner since day one.
Your whole family.
My whole family. Everything. I remember when I got sentenced, and I began getting these dumb tattoos when I was in the county jail, right? And I remember I got these 3 dots on my forehead. Can't see them anymore because it's been so long going. Yeah. The tan has messed, whatever.
Not a high quality tattoo.
Yeah, it wasn't a high quality tattoo.
Good tattoo job.
So I remember I thought it was cool, and I came out to visit, and I was like, I have the 3 dots on my forehead, and I'm my crazy life or whatever. And I remember my mother visited, because my mother used to visit me a lot in the county jail. Almost like we had at least 4 times a week for 20 minutes. She used to sit outside the LA County Jail for 2 or 3 hours just to see me for 20 minutes, which is it's insane.
Yeah,
right? You know. I remember I came out to visit once, and I was behind the glass, and she looked at me, and she seen the 3 dots, and she said, She said, okay. She said, you know, I'm always going to be there for you. You're never, ever going to need anything. If whatever you need, I got you. Never, ever am I going to say no, or I can't do it, or not today. Never. You need whatever you need. You let me. I got you. Those were her exact words.
Well, maybe she should have let you play basketball in junior high school. And,
So she said.
Nice to hear, though.
She said, but if I come and see you again, and you have tattoos on your face or your neck, because I see what you have on your forehead. And if I come out here and I see you and you have tattoos on your neck and you have and you're like, you do all this dumb stuff to yourself, I'm out. You're on your own, you know. So I'm in the county jail, and of course, I feel bad for her, you know, putting her what I put her through. So I told myself, you know, I never listened to her. This time I'm going to listen to her.
Yeah, you're trying something different. You're willing to try something different.
Yeah, so I didn't get any. I got some like little dumb stuff, but that was already there. So
yeah, was it more almost like it's not so much that she had a problem with the tattoos. Was it more like a symbolic gesture about you kind of just changing yourself?
No, she just always, my father and her always had a problem with tattoos.
Yeah.
They never liked them, no matter what. They see people today with them, and they're like, look at that. Look at this guy. Like, she'll see somebody, like, look at this guy. He's like a freaking chalkboard. He's like a walking billboard, you know? And so she's never been fond of it. So my sister and I have always respected that about her with my parents. And it's funny because I remember I was 15 or 14 and I got my mom's name behind my back, and my father seen it, and he didn't say nothing, but one day he was drunk and he brought it up. He brought it up, but he already knew that I was already like I was on the wrong path already. It was already too late for me to try to come back. I was already too far in, and I don't think he ever expected what happened to me. I don't think he ever expected that. And so, when it happened, And like I said, now the relationship that I have with all three of them, because it's just us four. It's just my sister, my mom, and my dad, and myself.
Right.
So the relationship that I have with them, it's amazing. Like, that's my sister right there, and that's my sister over there.
Point out photographs, I see that.
Yeah, so I love my sister to death. Every morning I text her. She's like an hour away from me. She lives in Victorville. So every morning I text her, good morning. Whenever I have the work that I do, and I graduate guys, and I send her pictures of our graduations. She's always very proud of what I'm doing.
Did she and your dad visit you at prison, or were they in touch?
Yes. My father, not so much. Like my sister, whenever she could, I never hold it against her, because again, she has a family, she has kids, she has a husband. She can't just be jumping every chance she gets to go see me. So the one person that that was on my side since day one, that I there's nothing that I can give her in this world that could ever pay her back for what she did for me. It's my mom. Like, she spent like her savings and her money and the stuff that she could have been using for trips around the world or whatever. She used it on me, and that's something that there's just, I can't. How do you repay someone for that? No money in the world could you
just living a good life, I guess, and treating yourself right and taking care of yourself and living a good life. I think that's probably all she wants. Plus, did they still own the business?
No, so the business was
run the family business.
Yeah, it ended in 1993. The lease ran out. I was already in prison. My sister had moved on, so they decided not to have it anymore. They just let it go.
Did your sister help you a lot though throughout your time in prison?
Absolutely. Whenever she can, So even though my mother used to order me the packages and all this stuff, send me the money, she was the one that would do it, because my mom wasn't familiar on how to order a package through the phone, to the company.
She would set up all the
so my sister had the whole
stuff.
setup. She had the whole setup. And once in a while, I asked my sister, "Hey, you got any money?" She'll send me some money, whatever I needed. But she was there. She was there, supporting me, whatever I needed.
That's awesome. How often do you guys see each other still?
It sort of sucks because I get to see her maybe like once a month sometimes.
Yeah.
Not as much as I would want to.
I
wish she lived around the corner, but she doesn't.
Yeah, people don't realize, one part of town in LA or one part in Southern, it's
and my mother too. My mother, I made all these promises to her that, we'll spend all this time together, we'll do all this stuff together. But she lives with her, and they're like about an hour and a half away. I see. So my father's right around the corner, so I get to see him a lot. But them, I wish there was more I could do, like, especially with this job that I have where I'm on the road 24/7.
Yeah, why don't you tell me about what you're working on, what your job is, and
what
you're up to these days?
When I came home in November of 2015, the life that I began living when I developed, or I had my transformation, as you can call it, to a different person, and I went back to being Cesar. I began living the life of being of service, right? It was no longer about me. It was about what I can do for others, my community,
That's awesome.
Society as a whole, right? So when I came home in 2015, that's the work that I was doing. The transitional home that I went through was a Jewish treatment center in Culver City. So I volunteered to feed the homeless. I volunteered at a placement home for troubled kids. I shared my story of what happened with me. Whenever, like wherever they sent me to go talk, I would talk, right? And then in 2017, the company that I work for is a nonprofit called ARC, the Anti-Recidivism Coalition. So they came calling and said we have a new pilot program that we're trying to get off the ground. It consists of 7 former lifers, inmates, that you will be going back into institutions and prisons and facilitate the same kind of self-help groups that help you come home to other men. So what better way?
Yeah,
What better way than
amazing work
than being of service and to going back into prison and literally sacrificing your life, because your personal life is literally on hold. Like your personal life, how are you going to have a personal life or relationship when you're on the road 4 days? Thank God that I have a woman today that's very understanding, that's very caring, that knows that the work that I'm doing, it doesn't go in vain, doesn't go unnoticed, and that it's not going to be forever.
Yeah, it's amazing work that you are doing. That must be just super fulfilling to...
Yes, absolutely. This work is not going to be forever. This work is for the meantime. Like I said, I'm only been out 3.5 years. That's how long I've been out.
Yeah.
And I believe that I have accomplished more than the average guy that's been out 5 years.
Yeah, how is it going when you go in there and you talk to other lifers in there? Are they receptive to you? Or, is it a mixed bag? Do you have certain ways that you techniques that you can use to get to them if they're resistant to your methods or changing?
Well, not really. I believe I know how to gain their trust. And I believe that the best way to gain someone's trust is by sharing your story of what happened to you, of who you are today.
Sure.
And when you do that, these people see it and they're like, oh, crap, like this guy was a lifer. This guy did 25 years. And now he's coming back in here to help me come home. So, of course, they're very receptive. Of course, you're going to have a few that are resistant, but in time, they come around.
All of them?
Yes, they come around.
All of them?
Yes.
How about that? 100% success rate in terms of just you reaching them.
Yes.
That's amazing.
It also helps that I have a great coworker that when we're in Ironwood State Prison, I facilitate the groups with my coworker. So him and I tag team the group. So, man, every time we walk into those yards and they see us, it's like the ice cream man. Like all these guys went up to us, hey, Jamel, Cesar, what's going on, bro? Hey, man, nice to see you guys. And they get really happy and animated, and they go into our groups and they're just so pumped up and they're just like listening, like, okay, what's the assignment? What are we talking about today?
Because they see you guys as the way out.
Yeah. Yeah, they see the success story. They see the fact that, and this is something that I've always shared with the men. I always let them know, like, they do more for me than what I do for them.
Right.
And I mean that because what they see is like they see us coming in here. But when I see is I hear their struggles. I hear what they're going through. I hear everything that surrounds the prison stuff. And that tells me, like, dude, like, I don't ever want to come back to this. Like, I don't ever want to come back to this. So that keeps me on, it keeps me focused. It keeps me like, I'm no longer a gang member. I'm not a criminal. All I do today is I'm trying to be the best citizen that I can.
Yeah, you don't feel like the person who was in prison for those first 15 years. You don't feel like that person at all.
Absolutely not.
And being in prison reminds you that you're not that person.
One thing that I share with the men is that whenever they have these self-discoveries about themselves, about them knowing that they can become someone else, because they think this is why they're scared of change sometimes. And this is what I believe. I'm not saying that that's what they said, but this is what I believe. They're scared of change because for a lot of these men, this gang lifestyle has been a survival mechanism for them, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So they believe that if I'm no longer this person, that I'm going to go back to being this weak link, right? That everything that they've, like, even if they learn how to fight to do or whatever, like they think that stuff goes away. And I tell them, no, that stuff doesn't go away. It's you have it locked up in a cage because that little dude that you created, that persona that you made up, he's still there. He's still capable of doing what he can do. I said, but because now you're so focused on doing positive stuff that he's no longer relevant. But then someone cuts you off on the freeway, or you see something happen and that you get triggered, that little dude wants to come out. But now you see that violence is not the way.
Yeah.
Like, you can't use violence to solve your problems. And this is what we share. This is why they're so receptive, because we're real with them. Like, I tell them, I'm not fixed. I have a lot of issues. Believe me.
Yeah, you don't come in as like, you don't have the approach, I figured everything out.
Like, absolutely
you're
not.
You're vulnerable and honest.
Yes. Yeah. I tell them, look, like, man, I got my struggles. I says, the only difference between how I dealt with stuff back then and today is, back then, I would deal with, if somebody came at me sideways, I would deal with it with violence right away, because that's all I knew. Says, but now I know, and I'm so secure about who I am today, I don't have to do that. I could choose to walk away. I could choose different methods.
Yeah, walk away, talk it out,
find a way to be like, look, I don't have to engage, because you know what? The plan for this day for me, nowhere in my plan for this day did it say I have to engage with somebody at 2:00 in the afternoon. That was never my plan.
Right.
So that's just a distraction, and I could move on from that.
That's great.
So when I tell them that, they realize, like, okay, you can do that. You can change. You can do something different.
That's powerful. Once people, that knowing that you can change and to feel like you're changing, that's a powerful feeling. How can people support the organization that you're working for, or reach out to it, or follow on social media, or support you, or feel free to send any plugs or websites you want people to go to out there?
Well, the nonprofit that I work for is ARC, the Anti-Recidivism Coalition. Our team is called the Hope and Redemption Team. My team is part of the Region 5, which is a southern region. And then we have the northern region.
All in California.
All in California.
State of California.
Yeah. So we're a nonprofit. So we're always looking for, people to help out. And because it's not just us. We have a lot of insight programs that we also do. Our whole organization revolves around helping formerly incarcerated individuals find a career path, not a job, a career path.
Hell yeah!
Right
there you go.
We have the construction site where we enroll them into LA Trade Tech for 12 weeks. We put them through a 30 crew cohort, and whatever career path they choose in construction, they could take. And then if they survive the 12 weeks, getting paid every 2 weeks to do to go to LA Trade Tech just to get trained. We have Manifest Works, which is working in the movie industry, setting up lights, cameras, ladders, chairs. We have Grip. We have this new coding class, I believe, computer coding. We have the new Ventura Training Center. They're getting the guys from the fire camps and training them to be real firemen.
Awesome!
LA firemen.
So many different.
So there's all kinds of programs.
And the name of the website, or the name of
it's ARC, Anti-Recidivism Coalition.
And just Google that, and people can
Google
find
that,
it.
and that's it. The founder of this organization, his name is Scott Budnick. Now he's moved on, and he's handed over the nonprofit into executive director by the name of Shaka Senghor, also formerly incarcerated individual. And but now Scott is part of the board panel. He's a head board.
Cool.
You might be familiar. I don't know if you heard. Remember the Hangover movies?
Of course, yeah.
Remember the Hangover? Okay, well, he's a producer. He's a director, producer of the Hangover. So he has a little Hollywood.
There you go.
So now he's back doing movies, but now instead of doing the Hangovers, now he's doing formerly incarcerated guys, like stories and stuff like that. So
this is the world he knows.
He's a great individual, man.
Cool.
Gave me a great opportunity to work for his company, and I'm here.
Awesome. I'm glad to see you, and I really appreciate your time. And this was just amazing. I'm emotionally exhausted just from hearing all the stories about your life. That's quite a story. And again, thank you for sharing those stories. And I'll let you relax for the rest of your evening. And thank you for the time, Cesar.
Thank you, man.
So there you have it. My conversation with Cesar Zuniga. What an amazing story. I was just emotionally exhausted after talking to Cesar, to be honest, but in a good, fulfilled way. It's just great to see people who are able to look at themselves more objectively and turn their lives around and help others on top of it. I really appreciate Mr. Cesar Zuniga taking the time and participating on the show. But anyway, yeah, you can follow this show, People We Love, on Instagram and Twitter. Just look for the red logo, white letters, People We Love, and there's also a Facebook page. The show's on Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, all that. And if you're enjoying the show, please leave a 5-star review on iTunes, a positive review. That's always great and helpful. I think that's about all I got today. So, you guys can have a good rest of your day, and we'll talk soon. Peace.